Hello, hi. This is going to be an early episode. I know that I said, I'm a typically practice on, being consistent when it comes to like dropping episodes because I am pretty much dropping pretty much like every Saturdays or just Saturdays, at 7 p.m. Like 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. But I'm not gonna hold you. Last time I dropped it around 7:52. I wasn't as consistent, but I'm gonna work on that. But this one was originally gonna be a social commentary video. I mean, it still is in a sense, but it's also gonna be a podcast episode because for this one, not gonna hold you, didn't really want my face in it. Cause something I noticed is whenever I do social commentary sometimes, depending on the topic, especially when it comes to anime, people immediately dive straight towards my appearance and I'm like, okay, that's cute. You think I'm skinny? No, I'm joking. But it's like, okay, this time you don't really have anything to go off of in a sense, but it's kind of just like at the same time, I don't know, I guess I'm more comfortable when it comes to talking about these kind of things. I just like yapping. I like yapping to my heart's degree. Now my throat trying to get sore. But anyways, so we're going to be talking about, so remember how I said like months ago I was eventually going to talk about the amounts of witchcraft that like I noticed in like anime and stuff, right? Today is that time. Today is that time. And then any episode after this is pretty much Saturdays at 7. I promise. I just wanted to just drop this one because I said I was for a while. And this was on my heart for a while because I've been sitting on this for like almost 6 months, 5, 6 months. And I was nervous because I know how the girlies get about anime as somebody that has watched it on and off since I was like 10. So I know very well. So once again I'm gonna take y'all on a backstory of how it all really started to begin with. So it started in December. It started in December with there was a video that I did where I was giving, it was 10 months ago, and something that I noticed was the immense amount of anime with like witchcraft and stuff in it. Was it 10 months ago? December 12th of 2023. And I was like, what's crazy? It's a good chunk of some of this stuff in anime, and it's a little crazy. It's a little, it's weird. So later on down the line, I ended up being really interested in the topic of like race and culture, and I pretty much did a deep dive into that from a biblical standpoint. And in the middle of me breaking down specific things, I noticed that I really had to take a deep breath when I kind of thought about it. With actually I was in the middle of editing the Lost in Translation series, and I randomly heard something say, "You're gonna do one on anime next," and I was like, "What?" And it got quiet. And then I heard it again, "You're gonna do one on anime next," and I was like, "What do you mean?" Like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but God, what do you mean? What do you mean? What's going on? And I had I had to pray about it, and I was just like, okay, if you really want me to do this series or whatever the case may be, whether it's this one, whether it's the Lost in Translation series or even the anime video, like, where is, I'm not trying to question you, but like, I would like some confirmation because I'm nervous. So I was told to read the book of Judges. specifically Judges 7:8, where, the whole incident and whole story of Gideon. And something that stuck out to me like a sore thumb was how he was still chosen to, tear down the astral poles and the idols where they lived and free their people from being, stumped out and being messed with and being held captive by people that were not only worshiping false idols, but at the same time getting the people to repent too. So I was like, oh, interesting. It was even crazier because within the dream that I had and all the stuff that was going on, something I noticed was that the deity that was linked to some of the symbolism that was in my dream was Asherah. And I'm like, okay, interesting. So when I started, praying and really debating about whether or not to do this, I was like, okay, if I'm really supposed to do this, what show am I supposed to start with? And I heard Naruto, and I'm like, B2 for real. I was just like, be so for real. I'm not doubting you, but I'm like, this is a lot to take in. This is a lot to take in. And it's like, the more I was watching stuff and the more I was like watching like not just anime, but other stuff, it was just like God was just pointing stuff out and it just made me not want to watch it no more. I'm like, ooh, I don't like this. No, no, no. So, and then there was like this one random video that I came across on TikTok or something where there was a content creator that was talking about pretty much trying to explain Christianity or God to people through anime or whatever. And when I sat, I wanted to sit and watch it because I'm not mean. I like to, learn new things or like listen and hear out other people's perspectives, even if I don't agree with it. And something I really started to like realize is that within the examples that they used, it still contained forms of witchcraft from specific shows. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, bro. I can't unsee it. I can't unsee it. I can't remain quiet about it. So I yapped about it on TikTok. So that's the backstory. I've been talking for like 11 whole minutes. So this is how, we got to where we are now. So let's really dive into it. So in this section, I'm gonna be talking about, the origins, the biblical origins and characteristics of witchcraft. No, this isn't one of those videos where it's like, ooga booga, ooh, like, no. This ain't no Halloween watch or nothing like that. I'm being for real. And before I start this off, I'm dead serious. This isn't me trying to be on no fear mongering stuff. This isn't me trying to be disrespectful and trying to control what people do. The main reason why I'm saying all of this is literally all I want is for people, both Christians and non-Christians, to really, evaluate and to think about the things that they're watching. Because yeah, it may seem like it's cool and the fight scenes is dope or whatever the case may be, whether, it's anime or whether it's not anime. But sometimes, hey, the truth is stranger than fiction. Like I said in a super old video of mine that got taken down about specific conspiracy theories that were actually like, it was actually true. But you'll be surprised at the subliminal messages and things that are hidden in the media that we consume, but it's covered up by cutesy aesthetics and nice, vocals and stuff like that. So that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. I don't want nobody coming on here and being like, oh my gosh, she's another one of those crazy Christians that's trying to be controlling. Like, I'll be a crazy Christian, but one thing you can't say is I'm trying to control you and tell you what to do. Because at the end of the day, it's your choice. But like the Bible says, like, you gonna do whatever you want to do, but in my house we gonna serve the Lord. That's just what it is. And if God is telling me that something is problematic and showing me that something is problematic, why would I not, why would I not hold myself to that? And also, tell other people, like, hey, these are specific things that I discovered, or things that have been revealed to me about specific things. And I'd rather you go to God and also, get confirmation that it's for you, you know, of whether or not to listen, but still, that's all I'm saying. That is all I'm saying. So, the origins, where it came from, what it mean, what it do, right? So, I have about 7+ pages worth of notes. It was really gonna be 14, but I was just like, no, I don't need this to be super long because it's already gonna be super long as it is. So, the full essence of witchcraft is to alter a situation or alter a specific situation by any means necessary, even by supernatural means. But according to Merriam-Webster and other websites, other dictionary websites, the definition of witchcraft pretty much is rituals and practices that incorporate belief in magic and that are associated with neo-pagan traditions and religions. Another definition is the use of sorcery or magic. Another definition is communication with the devil or familiar spirits. And then the last definition is a tradition or religion that involves the practice of witchcraft. So, pretty much like I said, the full essence of it is you using any means necessary to control or alter a situation. And that's just what it is. Now, all forms of witchcraft, and I know a lot of people are gonna get buck about it. And real buck about it. So it is what it is. I'm saying what I'm saying, and I'm saying it from a place of love, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it or nothing. All forms of witchcraft, or spirituality, as like people call it nowadays, all forms of witchcraft, regardless of worldwide region, can be traced back to the time of the Canaanites. As it's crazy because like back in ancient times, the Canaanites and the Egyptians for a little bit of time, even though they were beefing at one point, but the Canaanites actually influenced Egyptian culture a little more than people think. Like, it's to a point of where it's to a point of where some of the very deities in the Canaanites' deification systems, actually, the Egyptians and the Canaanites actually shared deities in their deification systems. Like, the Egyptians and Canaanites had a good chunk of interactions with each other. Like, it's to a point of where they had like temples dedicated to these specific deities, and they were worshipped along with the other Egyptian, other deities that the Egyptians were worshiping. It's just crazy. It's to a point of where you literally have like whole circles within witchcraft that acknowledge that, but a good chunk of people choose not to acknowledge it because they think it's a lie. Like, you have people like Cain that's referenced in this stuff, as well as Tubal Cain. And Tubal Cain pretty much is the first blacksmith, like, in the Bible in general, but he was also a descendant of Cain. That was somebody that was referenced, especially in modern witchcraft or whatever the case may be. Now, pretty much like I was saying, so all forms of witchcraft can be traced back to the Canaanites. as the Egyptians and the Canaanites, you know, they shared deities and everything until, you know, the Canaanites started tweaking and started going crazy, and the Egyptians eventually like took over. But afterwards, witchcraft spread across the world like wildfire through shamanism, which is divination, natal astrology, or just astrology in general, that's divination. Zodiac, you know, the whole zodiac system, divination, black/white magic, sorcery, and so on. As people worshiped the same spirits with the same characteristics, but with different names. So, prime example. So it's just like the example that I said when I pretty much was talking about the whole backstory of how this all came to be. So Asherah. So almost every single deity that is associated with fertility can all be traced back to to that specific deity, well, false god. And it's crazy because almost every single fertility deity, or whatever the case may be, it's kind of interesting because a good chunk of them are near water, and they're associated with birds or snakes in some type of way, or even bulls. And that's just crazy to me. Now, so something that I found like really interesting was, I think it was like a while back, and it was a pastor named it was a British pastor named Derek Prince. And something he said when I was listening to him, it really stuck out to me like a sore thumb. So what he was saying is, witchcraft in its essence is the attempt to control people and make them do what you want by the use of any spirit that isn't the Holy Spirit. And how, he was also talking about how it operates within three forms, pretty much as a work of the flesh, an evil spiritual power, and how a good chunk of people, sadly, they be dabbling with that stuff and be in the church. So in this whole thing, he continues, to say that the three key words when it comes to the full essence of what witchcraft is to manipulate, intimidate, and dominate. And the end goal is domination, control. And it means, with deceptive actions such as gaslighting, lying, guilt tripping, bullying, like any means necessary. Any means. Like, it ain't always bibbity bobbity boo. It can be literally just anything to control a situation. So, for example, right? For example, so to start it off, so y'all know how when Moses, got pretty much got the stone tablets with the commandments on it. And it's like, after God used Moses to bring the Israelites out of Egypt, they quote unquote returned the favor. And I say that sarcastically because they really didn't. So they ended up creating and worshiping a golden calf. And then later on, their adversaries, which were the Canaanites, who were the descendants of Canaan. Because remember how Mr. Noah was drunk, and Ham decided upon himself, yes, it would be funny to not only help my own father while he was drunk, but I'm going to be messy boots and tell my brothers about it. Only for those same brothers to be like, yeah, you were out of pocket, covered up the dad. And then the dad wakes up and is like, yeah, you're cooked, but it's not going to be you, Ham. Your son is cooked, and he's going to be a slave to his brethren. Like verbatim. And it has nothing to do with like race, because you have some people that's like, oh my gosh, he was cursed to be black. And I'm just like, no, he wasn't. They were already people of color. Like, Like, that doesn't make any sense. But anyways, it was to a point of where every single lineage that came from like Canaan were all involved in witchcraft. And it was crazy because really it was also Ham's whole lineage and some of, you know, some of some of the other kids and grandsons that came from Noah that also developed nations that struggled or practiced with witchcraft. And that was crazy. But so the Canaanites pretty much built an entire civilization that worshipped false gods and was involved in child sacrifice, in which the Egyptians, Greeks, and other countries witnessed and recorded in real time. And it's crazy because pretty much like in history, the Canaanites were actually the Phoenicians or the Carthaginians. And you have whole paleontologists that did studies, you know, about whether or not these events happened, and they very much did. And when I discovered that, I was a little shook. I was like, wow, that's crazy. But so later on down the line, King Solomon marries marries 700 plus women, has 300 plus concubines, has like 1,000 women. He really didn't even need that much women, but that's not the point. So he's hooking himself up with all these women, and these women are pulling him away from God to where it was at one point he himself was dabbling in witchcraft with said wives. And within that time period, pretty much within like that period of time before Solomon ended up repenting for his sins, later on down the line, because it's rumored that he was the one that wrote Ecclesiastes. In that whole book, he was talking about how everything is hevel or nothing, like it doesn't matter. And it's crazy because even King Solomon himself, that period of time of where he was dabbling in witchcraft is heavily referenced within the modern day occult. So, two of the deities Solomon temporarily worshipped along with the ladies that he was with was Asheroth and Moloch. And these are the same deities that originated from the Canaanites' deification system. And you can find that in 1 Kings chapter 11, verses 1 through 8. So, so as a Christian, the genuine root of witchcraft, it isn't the ooga booga booga booga. Like, no. The genuine root of witchcraft is rebellion. Like, 100%. Like, it's literally to a point of where the Bible literally compares divination or just witchcraft in general to rebellion and links arrogance to idolatry. So, this little thing that I'm about to say. This is just me saying it. This is just me saying it. You can choose whether or not to listen to it, tune it out, click off, I don't know. But it is problematic and shouldn't be practiced at all for many different reasons. And the major reason, is God instructs us not to do so. And it's not just because it's a control thing, but there's a lot of things that we don't see with our own two eyes, from a physical aspect that we do not be knowing about, like, at all. It's like when our parents tell us, don't hang out with specific people, or you should consider not being with specific people. And, they just got that hunch, that is something off about that person, and then something ends up being off about that person. It's like that. But the only difference is that God actually sees it in 4K. So, it's not because of the white man or anything like that. Because something I notice is, as a black person, whenever people talk about the dangers of witchcraft, and they're black, people love to say, oh, you only feel that way because the white man told you to feel that way. And it ain't because of the white man. Because some of the first cases of witchcraft was in Africa, in the Middle East during ancient times. And even white people have their own forms of witchcraft too. But behind that reason is the reality that by practicing witchcraft, you open yourself up to be spiritually attacked and harmed by evil spirits, as it literally came and originated from said evil spirits. The Canaanites, the deities that the Canaanites thought were real and that, could give them, I don't know, a shiny new robe or something. That was not what they thought it was. Those were demons that they were offering stuff to. Like, you'll literally think at times that life is getting a little too crazy, a little too spicy. But the whole time, it's actually demons that you're unknowingly or knowingly contacting that's bringing harm and danger into your life. So that grandmama or ancestor that you're thinking about contacting on a Ouija board or on a divination tray or whatever the case may be, that's actually a demon. Because once we gone, we gone. The only person that can bring us back is God. So, like, prime example, I've already talked about this in the Lost in Translation series before. So there have been times where people have had whole testimonies about the dangers of witchcraft and how you have people, that were involved in like human trafficking that were being forced to take place in juju ceremonies, and how you have people that were in cults, in whole cults. And yes, I'm talking about people that claim to be Christians and were making cults and stuff. They were doing all types of crazy stuff. Like, it's to a point where you had people that, like I said in the Lost in Translation series video, they were using the book of Psalms as a spell book to make stuff happen. And it's crazy because all throughout the Bible, it says witchcraft is a no-no. It said it's a no-no in general. It's not to be mean. It's not because God wants to ruin your fun and ruin your life. It's because there are demons involved in this stuff. And you mess with this stuff, you're inviting that into your life. It, like, period. You may think, oh, well, I'm this and I'm this and this hasn't happened to me yet. You just said the key word, yet. It hasn't happened yet. But something I learned, about all types of, just social interactions or whatever the case may be, or just not listening to people when they're trying to look out for you and tell you to do the right thing in a certain situation. You keep touching that stove, it's gonna get hot and it's gonna burn you. It may not seem like it's doing nothing now, but I personally would rather you not stick around to even find out and to just leave it alone. Leave this stuff alone. Because so I'll give my example, because some people feel like, witchcraft is just ooga booga, ooga booga. Like, it's something as crazy as it's something as crazy as people trying to do love spells on people and so on. Like, there's been times where I have been with people and it just felt like no matter what I did, I just couldn't get away from that person. Or whatever the case may be, right? And then I get with this, and then I leave this person. And then I look back and internally I'm like, I'm not attracted to this person or anything. So what's the tea about that? I'm very confused. only to discover that that person possibly did something behind closed doors. Because you have people that you literally will have people that will secretly get readings on you to try to get you back into their lives or to do something to you or whatever the case may be. Because, mind you, I've had, at this point, I have had like 2 dreams of being warned about stuff like that. And it was very confusing. So I'll actually explain the dream, right? Because this is the first time I ever really just like actively talked about it, right? So there was like a whole incident. Well, in the dream, I was just chilling or whatever, with me and some random people, and I saw a zombie, and I'm just like, okay, what's that about? Okay, that's a little strange. And I'm running, and everybody else is just chilling, right? So in the aftermath, in the whole dream, a zombie apocalypse just breaks out. But at the same time, I feel like the zombie apocalypse is like the least of my problems, and there's actively something or someone that is chasing me. So I was proven that was right, because so there was this place that I was working at in the dream, and it was abandoned or whatever. So the thing or person that was trying to find out where I was, they broke the window in the establishment, went in and was flipping through people's file cabinets and stopped at mine, and pretty much grabbed it and dipped. And it was crazy because there was barely anything in the manila folder, but still they grabbed it and still tried to find out where I was. So, stay with me here because it's gonna get a little weirder. So I don't like to deal with any spirituality outside of Christianity or nothing like that whatsoever. But I do feel like there are a good portion of half truths in them, just in my personal opinion. So something I noticed, so around that time I started looking up like what do file cabinets mean in dreams and stuff, because I do feel like I'm a real big believer in, I feel like God gives us warnings or pretty much tells us stuff in dreams, but at the same time, the devil also tries to attack us and tries to do really weird stuff in our dreams. And it's low-key funny because once again, he's a loser because he's giving himself away in our dreams and showing us how he is going to attack us. But that's not the point. So, outside, you know, in other spiritual circles or whatever outside of Christianity, so file cabinets are associated with data or memory, or it's associated with order and clarity and all this other stuff, but it's mostly associated with the mental filing system, or the memories or whatever the case may be that we've experienced and gone through. Essentially your mind. It's associated with your mind. So in other words, when you have a stranger trying to access your information, they're trying to do or find out stuff about you. And that's what that dream was signifying. Because shortly after that, it was a whole bunch of people that I used to be cool with that mysteriously was popping up, and it was very strange. And there was another dream that I had where I even laugh about this because it's just like, I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever dreamed. And I was super confused. I'm like, this has gotta mean nothing. So long, y'all gonna laugh too. But long story short, it was literally, I had a dream where, and this is the second time, about something of memories or whatever the case may be is involved. So I had this dream that one of my favorite wrestlers, who's white, is like braiding my hair. Like he's literally braiding like Corey shells in my hair. And then my significant other comes in and he's upset. And I'm explaining to him, I'm like, no, 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 he's braiding my hair. He's braiding my hair. So I undo the braids and take out the Corey shells, and I pretty much go after him trying to explain what is going on. And that's the only part of the dream I'm going to talk about. But something I found very, 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 very interesting. It's just something I found interesting was how, so Corey shows in general are cute, but I was just nosy because I'm like, it's something real weird, because I'm not saying that white people can't braid hair, because they can't. Really, anybody of any race has the ability to like braid and knit and all types of stuff. So that wasn't the thing that, it wasn't me trying to make it seem like white people can't braid. Like, no, it was very out of place. So I'm just nosy. I'm just talking to one of my best friends about it. And I'm just nosy. I'm just like, okay. So we're talking about it, and we're pretty much talking about how Corey shows actually means something very interesting in African spirituality. And it pretty much symbolizes, according to some, it symbolizes, quote unquote, the power of destiny and the interconnectedness of all things, or whatever the case may be. And they're associated with, quote unquote, feminine energy, and they're seen as sacred objects that can facilitate communication with ancestors and spirits. So in other words, people be using Corey shows for divination purposes. And it's crazy because Corey shows, according to some, represent, quote unquote, the protective power of the ocean deity Yamaya. And Yamaya, the false god, goddess, or deity, or whatever, that is in Ifa. And that deity is considered an Orisha, or whatever the case may be. But with the deeper I dug, I'm like, okay. So in other words, someone's trying to read me again. I'm just like, okay. I'm just like, that's crazy work. And what's even crazier is shortly after I had that dream, I had nonstop dreams about, it was always a specific person that was trying to attack or kill me shortly after that. And I'm like, okay. You thought you ate? You didn't. You really didn't. And stuff like this is also interesting because you do have people that practice spirituality and so forth, and they talk about astral projecting and all this other weird stuff. And I'm just showing all this, and I'm just saying this to say, before I make, before I interlink that in the examples that I saw in some anime together, before I interlink them, I just want to say, once again, that this stuff is real. I'm not telling you to be ooga booga afraid, because I'm at the point where I'll be a little fidgety here and there, but it's like, only person I fear is God. And that's just what it is. So, hey. But the one thing I do want to say is, a lot of people will say and be like, oh, this stuff is fake, it's made up, you don't know what you're talking about. But one thing that I have learned, and I've realized that, like, science be science, and, some things when it comes to science is absolutely 100% true. At the same time, there's some things that, just, it can't be explained to the fullest degree unless you see it yourself or you experience it yourself. And I feel like, in my opinion, um, even though nowadays word of mouth, can be a little faulty, I'm really big on if a bunch of people are saying the same thing but in different ways, it's a strong possibility that that specific thing happened. It happened and that it exists. So all I'm saying, this stuff is real. If you practice it, I would suggest you to drop it and leave it alone completely. Just completely, and just vent to God about it. Because you don't want to keep dabbling with this stuff, and the next thing you know, it could potentially, end with you being on your deathbed. That's all I'm saying. Oh yeah, so another thing I absolutely want to add is so how, like I said earlier, like a form of like witchcraft is like a work of the flesh. Pretty much it's like manipulation by any means, right? So what a lot of people don't realize, because I feel like, it's not really taught. I wouldn't say it's taught. Nobody really knows it. But you'd be surprised at the amount of like people in their family, especially like people of color, really anybody, but it's definitely prominent in like communities of color, families of color, where you have whole family members that are witches and you wouldn't even know it, because either these people put up a facade of like supposedly being a Christian. So, prime example, right? So, I'm gonna give y'all my whole full testimony or whatever, right? So, for me, I didn't come to understand or realize this until I officially came back to God in about like around like 21, 22, I believe. Because this was shortly after God was holding me accountable. It was like, hey, you really need to look in the mirror because you're out here moving crazy. You need to make better decisions and you need to repent. And then I heard another sermon where it was talking about, don't let the love in your heart wax cold, for God. And if you got an issue with somebody, just go to them and talk to them about it. Practice proper communication. If we're supposed to be one in the body of Christ, we need to start acting like it. Cause hold up. My bad, my alarm cut off. So yeah, cause it's mainly because of the fact that like we're in end times, and it's like it's not time. It's not playtime. Like for real. So once I had heard that, I started feeling bad. I'm just like, dang, like I'm not really as like genuine of a Christian as I thought I was. And I felt really bad. So I started to lock in. And once that happened, it was just constant spiritual warfare that I was experiencing. And I would have these weird dreams where like stuff would be revealed to me and so on. And something I noticed was whenever I would have specific opportunities and so on, like people that were close to me or people that used to be close to me, they would talk so negative to me. Like, for example, like when I started my business, because mind you, I'm gonna always talk about it. I promise this is not a self promo. I'm just saying in general. So I started my graphic design business when I was like 20, and 3 years before that, and I talked about this in my testimony on episode 1, I think. If I didn't, I'm gonna talk about it now because there's a lot of things that I left out, that I'm still, obviously like healing about. Because one thing about me, I don't want to walk around with having no unforgiveness in my heart. I'd rather be honest, with God about it and work on growing better within having forgiveness. So, so just know if, hey, If it's just crazy. But yeah, so 3 years before I even turned 20, like I was 17, I had graduated from high school. And it was crazy because before that I couldn't even see myself graduating like from high school. Like I was just going with the flow. I really didn't want to be here like that. So when I was like 18, no, I was like 19 and I was in community college. I vented to God at one point and I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. Like at the time I didn't realize it. I was just venting out loud. And I was like, I was frustrated. I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. My major is my major is computer science, but I'm failing this class. And I don't really know what I have an interest in outside of like anime and cosplay and stuff. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like what is my purpose? What am I supposed to do? Everybody else knows what they want to do, but I don't, right? So days later, I'm either walking to class or walking somewhere. I can't even fully remember. I was walking though. And while I was walking, and it was hot outside, it was no wind, no type of wind was blowing. So it was like a random wind. It was just like whoosh, and it was blowing. And I had just random flashbacks to things that I would do like as a kid. Like I would draw stick people and I would make like you know the snowman cutout, like the snowflake cutouts and stuff. And when I was making like PowerPoints and stuff in the ninth grade, and I eventually figured out like, oh, so this is what I'm supposed to be doing, essentially. Because I didn't even realize that that was the thing that I was interested in like fully until like then. Like before then I was just vibing. So a year later, that's when I started my graphic design business. Um and I was continuing to grow and like get a whole lot better along with learning so much important stuff in college. And the whole time I'm in college, I'm being told all types of weird stuff from people, you know, from like friends, people that I used to be friends with, family members, etc. Like it was at one time where I was told that my homework was not as important as, you know, stuff around the house. And all I was doing was taking like a 15-minute break or so to finish a homework assignment that I had. And this course was extremely important, mind you. And once I got super close to graduating, there would be times where I would be told by a relative that, you know, my little graphic design business, like my little business doesn't matter. And, you know, it's not like you're making a bunch of money, so your little business doesn't matter. And if you don't have an LLC, you know, your little business doesn't matter. And it was crazy because I was very passionate about that, but I was like low key kind of nervous because it was to a point where God was telling me like, all right, I know you like this business, but sooner or later you're gonna have to stop being nervous and actually communicate with people and socialize with people in order to run this business eventually. And I was like, I don't want to do it. And then God was like, but you have to. So throughout my whole journey of just growing my business, I can't count on my fingers how many times people have looked me up and down and the energy was so funky. The more I was growing my business and the more I was growing as a person, to where, you know, there would be conversations where people would speak so negatively about myself, and I would help people even when I had absolutely nothing. And the very moment something good opened up for me, all of a sudden the spirit that was on that person would just start tweaking out of control. And it was at one point where somebody I was helping actually like was cursing me like under their breath. And I'm just like, wow, okay. Like that's crazy. Ooh, excuse me. And And it sometimes it would just remind me of Proverbs 18:20. I think it's Proverbs 18:21, where it says like life and death is in the power of the tongue. And I feel like a lot of people, they don't realize, especially like family members and so on, I feel like they don't realize that the things that they do, such as like subtle manipulation or just full on manipulation, I feel like they don't realize that stuff like that, is witchcraft, but as a work of the flesh. I feel like they don't realize it because they're stuck in their own world and that everything is about them. Because, just in my eyes, I feel like Jesus calls us to be honest people. If things don't work out the way you want them to work out, it's most likely for a reason. And it's better to pray to him than to lie and manipulate and guilt trip people into getting what you want. And that's just not right, period. And it's to a point of where you have whole family members that are secretly into, witchcraft practices and stuff. And on top of that, they'll manipulate their own family members or friends or other people. And it gets to a point of where they'll benefit off of the fruits of your labor. Like everybody else will benefit off of that, but you. And it's to a point of where you'll consistently deal with like the spirit of delay because of specific people. Like, notice how when you have like really good opportunities, and you tell specific people, those opportunities immediately fall in the trash and you don't get them. But when you don't tell specific people, those opportunities, those opportunities happen. And like God is like confirmed with you, like, yeah, signing up for this job or taking this opportunity is cool. Just pay attention to that. I don't know, which is why I feel like people should consider praying against stuff like that, because it is a lot more common than people think. It's a lot more common than people think, but people will manipulate others via using, quotes like, blood is thicker than family. But when in reality, the actual quote is, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. So either way, I say just pray. Just pray to God to reveal specific things. Because I guarantee you, if it's witchcraft involved, baby, you are going to be told that. Because even I was told that, even in a recent dream that I had. So yeah. Also, one more thing. I feel like, in my personal opinion, just based on my experience, I feel like a way that you can tell that somebody is genuinely a witch is really in their demeanor. It's really in their, not just in their demeanor, but the words that they say, which is why, like in the Bible, it just says, use discernment, test every spirit. Because not everybody that get in your face has the best intentions for you. Like everything they say has had nothing but half truths. Because one thing about the devil, aka Tinky, everything he says are literal lies, and a half truth is still a lie. Because if it's not the full truth and nothing but the truth, it's a lie. And you do have some people that are witches that ooh, excuse me, they tell the truth, but they tell it in a way that is not truthful. Because I've seen people that will tell people the truth, but they won't tell it to them they'll never tell it in the exact way that it's meant to be told. Because, like, prime example, they'll say it, like, let's just say somebody's getting cheated on or whatever. They won't say, hey, I just discovered that this person is cheating on you. I know exactly how you feel, but I feel like the best thing to do, is to just consider praying about it and seeing where to go from here. You don't deserve to have that happen to you. That's really messed up. These people will sit and will be like, oh, he cheated on you. What you need to do is you need to go and you need to spin the block. You need to do and do something crazy to where that crazy thing will get you locked up. They don't have your best interests at heart. They never have your best interests at heart. They want you to do what they think is the best thing to do. And if you don't follow that, they'll get upset with you. And it could be it could be something as simple as, you not being in alignment or in agreement with something that they have an opinion about, or whatever the case may be. Like, they could say something 100% wrong, and just because you openly say you're not in agreement with it, they'll fly off the handle. They'll 100% fly off the handle. Like, in my opinion, that's one way to tell for like certain, like 1,000,000,000%. And then another way is that they're a control freak, which pretty much plays into like the first one. Because something I notice is when it comes to specific people that are witches or that have, really questionable like tendencies or spirits, is that they're all selfish. They don't really think about how their, words or, their behavior, how it affects other people. That's another way you can tell. And then the most obvious way of all is if you see them wearing, like jewelry or donating specific things that are prominent in like spiritual practices that are a no-no. So yeah. So I feel like those are like three ways I feel like you can tell if somebody really is like out here on that kind of timing. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. So now we're gonna talk about the interlinking of anime and witchcraft. And it's not all animated shows. I'm just saying like in general.